Hello there and welcome back, gentlemen. So in this video, I'm just going to run through how to install the XWVM mod onto your computer. Now, all the links for all the tabs here, I'm going to put that in the description and in the comments below. Credit due where credit is due, the devs have written on their mod page a pretty foolproof step-by-step guide on how to actually put this on your computer. But just in case, well, okay, let's be real. There's going to be somebody out there who is not going to be able to figure it out. So this is the point of putting this video out there. And to be honest, if you're someone like me, right, who's Gen Z, there are actually a few things that don't actually make like full sense because despite people saying that we're the digital natives, I know people who like have never opened up the file explorer before in the computer. So yeah, this is for those people as well. So we'll go through all that. All right. So first you need to do is you need to get a copy of the game. So there's multiple ways you can get copies. You can get it on Good Old Games. The devs also say that if you have like the original, like the OG copy, like on a physical disc, it can still work as well. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to run through what I've done because this is what I know to actually work. So if you go to Steam and you go over to the X-Wing Special Edition, this is the only thing that you need to buy really to get the mod working. Now on the Steam page, it says that you only get two versions. You get the original DOS version and then the remastered Windows. There is actually a third version of the game, which I can't actually recall what it is, but you'd get three copies by just buying this one game on Steam. And you only need one of these games in order to get the mod working. So yeah, you get all the stuff here. You just need to buy X-Wing Special Edition on Steam, and that will give you the copy that you need. After you've done that, you then need to go over to the ModDB page. And if you go over to the first one right here, if you go over to the articles, depending on when you're watching this video, this will probably be buried off behind a few more posts. But if you do go to the alpha download links, you get pretty much everything here that you need. Linux is supported, but once again, I don't use Linux, so I'm just going to talk about the things that I know that's worked for me. These two things here for the Windows file download, these are the two things that you need. Plus, if you want, you can get the in-flight mission dialog. So there are three files technically. Technically, you only need two, the core download and the HD asset pack. You really do want this one because this is where all the good stuff is. And then the optional is the in-flight mission dialog. So these are the three things you need to download. Now, when you download these things, they'll come in zip files. Okay, so once you've downloaded them, you need to unzip them. So here I've got them unzipped in folders here. It will be in your it should be in your download page in your main file under your C drive. Some people might have it custom download somewhere else, but that's where default is. So you just go to your download files, unzip them, and then you open up. The first thing you want to open up is the alpha build. All right, so you go to the application here, you double click that, you click yes to the run, and then you'll get this prompt screen here. So I've already had it installed, so I'm not going to go through all this, but this one's all pretty much foolproof as well. You just go through the steps and then it will install it into, it should default install it under your program files x86. Of course, it will be different for other people's computers, but that's the default directory. So you just go through, click next, and then finish this off. Now, once you've done that, you then want to install the HD asset pack. So you need to install that first, right? The alpha build first, you install that. Then you install the HD assets. And this one's also pretty straightforward. You just run the application file for the HD assets. Click yes. And then when you get to the prompt screen, it should automatically find where the alpha build is installed. So you just put it in there and then finish, and then you're done. So that way you get the alpha build and the HD asset pack. Now for the in-flight mission dialog, this one here, the sidecars. So what you need to do is that you need to put this in the folder for the alpha build. Now, if you click this thing here, okay, right. So this part here doesn't. For someone like from my generation, we usually ignore like these things here, especially if it's like a text document. No one reads anyway, so it doesn't happen. But these things right here, pretty much explain where you need to put the stuff in. So it says it's straightforward. It most definitely is not. I don't know who wrote it, but I understand you wrote it with the good intentions. But there's a lot of people I know who would never be able to get this far. Yeah, all you need to do is that you need to put it into this directory right here. So the app data roaming, if you try to access the directory directly from the C drive, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not entirely sure. So usually you need to go down here into the Windows um, not entirely sure what this thing is called, to be honest. But oh, it's not showing up on my recording here either. Oh, my bad. But if you do go down to the Windows directory and then you type in the app data roaming, percent app data roaming, I'll put up on the screen what the exact wording is. You'll be able to find where this is, and once you find that, then you need to extract, which you already have extracted here. You put it into this part here. Get that. There you go. You gotta put it right here. So it's in the XWVM file folder, and you put that in. So the directory should look something like this once you're done. And once you've done that, then it should be working fine. So yeah, this part slightly a bit more complex, but that's how it's done. Okay. Okay, so once you've gone through all of that, all you need to do is go to the program files x86, the XWVM folder, and then just run the alpha build that's been installed there. And you will then get to this screen right here. So what you're gonna have to do here is that your screen won't look like this. You won't see, oh, that's what it is, the floppy disk. That was the third version that I was talking about earlier. But all right, yeah, you won't have any of this on your screen. What you're gonna need to do is that you're gonna need to come over to the right hand side here and click Add Game, and it should automatically find the best copy they have, the latest copy, which is the 1998 Windows version, which is the version that pretty much has everything that you need. The differences between running the different versions, from what I understand, is some of them have different audio files. Some of them only have the MIDI file, and then some don't. I'm not entirely sure, but there are certain things. If you only have one of the older copies, like the physical thing, you will be limited in what you have. I think the benefit of actually having the latest special edition one is that you can run the John Williams music from the CD file straight away. I'm not sure if that is available on the 94 version, but yeah, I'm digressing here. So yeah, once you click Add Game, it will find the latest copy of whatever copies that you have, and then all you need to do is click Add Game. If you want to add all three of them, like I did here, you're just gonna have to navigate around. Yeah, you just navigate up one level and then come down here and select these, and then it will find the other two. So that's how you get these loaded up here. So once you've done that, we just have a look at the settings here. Yeah, so since we haven't actually run the game, nothing will show up here. Actually, you know what, we'll just run the game so that way I can run through all the options. Yep, so you just click on the copy that you want to do and then click Start Game. And then it will run through the opening transition scenes. So you can just skip this by just left clicking. And this will get you here, which is the opening menu basically. So now if we go here, all right, so on the current game, these settings right here, the one that you want to switch first is this, the preferred context. Switch on the XWVM remastered. And this one adds a bunch of like very small details, like for example, the droid and the entrance here, the audio files for the briefings as well, I believe. That's all like been revamped. So yeah, you wanna switch this on, because by default it's well, for me, when I installed it, it defaulted to classic, and I think I played the first 2 hours without this enabled. But yeah, you want to have this one enabled. Then after that, The weapon convergence, I personally think you should switch on the bullseye, just because compared to the original game, the damage models are actually quite different. So trying to hit TIE fighters, especially if you're going like head on or from directly from the rear, it is actually pretty hard. Your lasers will like go through the wings and whatnot, which wasn't really the case in the original game. The hitboxes were pretty big and well defined. So I found this one pretty helpful. Switch on the bullseye. But of course, it's personal preference. You know, how it is you want. Then if you go down here, I switched off the play transitions because I don't really care to watch all the small little animations in between. It takes up too much time. So that's something I would recommend switching off. Here's a bunch of other things that I didn't bother touching because they're pretty useful. Um, these settings here are for if you play with a controller or a mouse, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I'll come back to that. Now you come down to the cheats here. So these three were part of the original game. You could enable these cheats, the disable collisions, unlimited weapons, and invul. The new one is this one, the unlocked armory. And what's interesting about this is that there's some weapon systems. Actually, all the weapon systems in this armory were not part of the original game. But from what I understand is that from TIE Fighter and I think X-Wing Alliance, there's certain weapon systems that they've added now into this game, but they've also, I'm pretty sure, added brand new weapon systems. I think the turret there's a new turret that you can have on the Y-wing, which like has its own AI that can like shoot around the starfighter. I don't think that was a part of any of the uh, installments of X-Wing. So yeah, you can just enable this, and when you go into the craft selection screen before a mission, you can play around and like select a whole bunch of different weapon systems and loadouts there. So that's really cool. This part here, this part is where the good stuff is, in my opinion. Is the extra difficulty rankings. This was not part of the original game. Um, my personal favorite is this one here, the new energy transfer system. This makes it so that you can't game the system by overcharging your lasers and then dumping it straight into the shields. So you could always have the shields up with your weapons without any drawback, really. I've always had this one enabled since I got it. This was the best change for me personally. The enemy firepower debuff, from what I understand, is that in the original game, all of the all of your opponents, they all used the lower weapon setting. Like when you overcharge your lasers, they weren't allowed to overcharge their lasers. So if you switch this off, they'll hit you much harder. So the game gets even harder from there. These two here, the enemy AI rank, if you switch that on, I think it changes all of the starfighters to have a top ace level AI performance. And the enemy ship types, I'm not entirely sure. The best thing about all of these settings is that if you just hover over the check marks, it will tell you what it does. So in this case here, upgraded to different, more challenging models. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll find out another time. And then if you hover over any of the other, as you can see, it will show up here on this screen here, what it does. Yeah, okay. So there's that. Now, oh yeah, one more thing, the models and details thing. So here, if you're running a potato PC somewhat similar to mine, you would want to run either the DOS or the Windows texture versions because it does actually improve your performance. I have to keep it at HD because I'm recording videos. People don't want to see the the trash models on YouTube. So it takes a hit on my system, but it is what it is. So yeah, you want to keep that the high definition if your computer can handle it. If not, then you come here, switch this. In my experience so far with messing around with the display and video settings, this one here, the models, is probably the most important option to set if you're having performance issues. This one really has a big impact. Uh, Under audio and language, okay, here's the problem right now with the alpha build. Every time you restart the game, the SFX volume will always reset to the max. So you wanna take care of that if you value your hearing. Put that there. You have your speakers, the subtitles. Ah, yeah, okay. The music source here, this one's pretty important. So if you, there are two different ones. The real-time synthesis, I think that's the changing from the MIDI file into whatever it's called. You have these two options that you can mess around with. The remastered music is the one that most folks that are recording videos now on YouTube, that's the one that they use because you can bypass the copyright for it. But it also has its own quirk because it follows the actions in the game. So depending on what you do in the game, if you use these two music sources, it will give you, give its own kind of narrative as to what is going on. It runs different motifs here and there depending on what's going on, which is really cool. I defaulted to the CD audio track, so this is the John Williams music from the movies and whatnot. That's just my preference. It does hit me with the copyrights, but I don't care at this point. So yeah, that's all the settings there. For display and audio, you have the resolution, full screen enables. Yeah, this one here, the quality. So I've put it on the lowest. I'm not entirely sure how good it actually does look like if you put it to the max. I think if you watch, I'll put more links in the description below to other people that make vids for the mod here. But it does look quite good if your computer can handle it. But I've never been able to actually see much difference because the computer just won't actually show it. Okay, so there's that. I've never messed with any of these things before. I'm not entirely sure what these things do, but they're not too important. For the camera, okay, so for this one here, that's important. If you use VR or if you're using head tracking software like I am, I don't have VR or TrackIR. I have the open track on the webcam. Well, okay, which is important because there is this option. It does not work. I'm not entirely sure what this does, the open track UDP. But if you're someone like me who's using OpenTrack with the webcam, just default to the TrackIR and it'll work for you. But this is where you can select your VR or your TrackIR. Or if you're just your average Joe, you don't need to mess around with that. Just keep it to the normal. You have a bunch more settings here. I did not mess around with this. Okay, I did mess around with this. The thing is, when you use OpenTrack, you already have all these settings in the OpenTrack software. So the only thing I did do was invert because for some reason, for the yaw axis, it's already inverted. So if you yaw left or right your head, it went the other way. I don't know why. So I had to enable this one. You could enable it in OpenTrack as well, but that is something there. It's an alpha build after all, so these things are expected. But that is a problem there. Not too sure why. So there's that. Now if we go to controls and inputs, okay, so a lot of people ask this part here as to what you can do. Okay, so first I should cover the mouse. So this one is brand new, the mouse control. I have never seen mouse controls like this in any of the installments for the X-Wing games. So if you don't have a joystick or a controller of some kind, you just go here, then X-Wing style. That will enable the mouse, and then you can play the game with the mouse. I personally don't like the mouse control just because it has like a really old school system where it's basically like an FPS. So you move your mouse and then the crosshair will move there. The problem is that when you're fighting, if you're dogfighting in a flight sim, you kind of need to constantly move in one direction depending on how the dogfight occurs. So you're gonna constantly have to move your mouse across the mouse pad to try track. This is where I gotta give credit to War Thunder. Their mouse aim system that they have there is probably the best there is. You basically just move the mouse off to the direction and then the plane will move into that direction as best it can. And depending on how far you've moved your cursor away from the crosshair will determine how much how steep an angle of deflection is put on either the ailerons or the rudder or whatever control surface that you're doing. So it'll affect the rate of your turning speed and angle in whichever direction you're going. So that's a thing you can do there if you don't have a controller or a joystick. Now, if we go over to the remap game control, this is where all the good stuff is. So it should automatically detect your controller. In this case, I've got the Extreme 3D Pro. And if you just scroll down here, you have everything, but you also have a lot more stuff that was not part of the original game design. For me personally, what I did first was I switched the roll and the yaw because it defaulted to the way it was in the original game. And in the original game, uh, it could not recognize joysticks that had more than two axes. Somebody in my comments for the previous video did mention that it was actually possible to roll the ship. You just needed to press a button. I tried doing that in my X-Wing Special Edition. It still didn't work. So there's that. But yeah, I switched it so that it in my X-Wing flies like an aircraft basically. if I push the joystick off to the left or right, it rolls the aircraft. It doesn't yaw. That's the default. Then because I have the Extreme 3D Pro, I've got the third axis which is the rudder axis if you're old school flight sim, and change that to the yaw here. That's the stick X. Okay, so now here's the mouse controls, keyboard. If you go down here, the really interesting thing is the radio manual. This is brand new as well. Now, I have not been able to figure out how to actually make this thing work. I managed to figure out that if you just do keybinds to whatever menus that you want to open up here, all you need to do is just press and hold when you're in the game. And what it does is that it will pause the game and open up the radio menu. After that, however, if you come down here, these axes, these control how you select the radio actions. I have not quite been able to figure out how to make this one work properly. I haven't been able to figure out how to get the mouse axis inputted. It just doesn't receive when I move the mouse. Then I want to put the axis in here. And for the keyboards here, these ones do work, but it's really finicky because you have to manually input which of the axis and which direction you want to select the actions. So I haven't messed around too much with this. But someone out there, if you know how to make it work, please elaborate for us. We would like to know. For the controller, it is a little bit easier, but all of my control keybinds, I've already put it for other things, so I don't mess around with these things here, the radio menus. But they are really useful if you do know how to make it work, because for those who do know, the amount of actions that you have, it requires you to basically press shift and control to get the multi-key function. It's basically like Armor in space at this point, where you got multiple keys to do different actions all over the place. So there's that. These ones are important here. They weren't quite part of they were part of the original game, but instead of pausing the game in the past, if you open up the map, the damage control, the goal tracker, they will input these into the multifunction displays that are already in the cockpit, which is really cool. So you don't need to pause the game to access these things. Yes. So there's that. So all the default game controls for the rest of the actions. So here you got the wingman orders. You got all these still there. The camera controls, if you're like me using the webcam or TrackIR, it doesn't really matter, but it's still the same as the original game. If you use your keypad, if you press and hold these keypads, it will point the camera into whichever these directions are. So you got that there. Yeah, you got the free look now because it's now in the Unity engine. You can do that. You couldn't do that in the original game. And yeah, that's all the important controls really that people were asking in the comments. So there's that. Right. So there's controls and input. And I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all the main stuff that people have been asking about. So yeah, if you found it helpful, then please like and subscribe. If anybody wants to see me play through some of the actual campaign missions, and let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching.